Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh.
Good morning, everyone. Good rainy morning from the beautifully rainy and cold Beachview Business District for the Pittsburgh Current podcast, live from Sorgatron Media here on Broadway Avenue. We are live. We're in the middle. I think this was our first live show, but we got everything's under control now. We're moving along. Thank you for joining us this morning. We have a great guest this morning, Brian Crawford of PGH Museums, a new subscription-based media website, media company. And we'll be talking about that, of course, but let's talk about a few announcements. First, coming up December 13th, live at the Roxy Theater, it's Jim Kren's Very Yinzer Christmas. Jim has been working on this show hard for the last months, honing. And he's going to be playing with the Bill Henry Band, which, for those of you who know the Bill Henry Band, they're a great live show. You should definitely get your tickets. You can go to our website, pittsburghcurrent.com, to get all of the details on Jim Kren's Yinzer Christmas. And the tickets are $30 on December 5th from Max's Allegheny Tavern on the Peel Day Party. At the Speakeasy in the basement of Max's Allegheny. So it'll be fun. It'll be Repeal Day themed. Some of us will be wearing some sort of costumes. We're going to have entertainment, food, drinks, everything you want, as well as there may be, some happenings. We don't know. It's Repeal Day, so, we're going back. We're going to actually make the booze in a bathtub in our office. So that's good. I'm just kidding. It'll be real store-bought alcohol, folks. I'm kind of rambling today, so let's get a little focused. Brian Crawford is my guest today, and a lot of you may know Brian Crawford. He's very well known throughout the Pittsburgh media scene, the podcasting. That's actually how Brian and I met. When we started the Pittsburgh Current, before we started the Pittsburgh Current, Brian, I think you had me on your show, and I really appreciated that. Brian, when I was sort of jobless, homeless, and hanging out, Brian said, "Hey, why don't you come on and let's talk about your situation?" And so I don't know if I've ever said it in person, but I really appreciate, Brian, that you helped me out with that. And honestly, that helped get the word out a lot. And then from there, we were able to, kind of start the Pittsburgh Current. So
yeah, I loved having you on. It was a lot of fun.
And that's also why, because a lot of times in media, there's this idea that it's very sort of, I have my lane, you have your lane, etc. But I think the more media that we have, the better things are. And so that's why I didn't hesitate on having Brian come on today to talk about his new website, pghmuseums.org. Very much does, we're going to kind of be covering some of the same things, but in my mind, you can't have too much coverage. And so, Brian, talk to me a little bit about PGH Museums. Where'd the idea come from? And
yeah, so it started off with a podcast,
right.
Actually. It was a podcast called The Culture Cruise that I did with my friend Randy, who started this project with me. And The Culture Cruise was a fun podcast where we would get in a car and we would drive to a museum, record the podcast while we're driving, and then drive back from the museum and talk about what we experienced.
Yeah.
And I was too busy, Randy was too busy. It never got the love it deserved, so I decided to branch out and revitalize that podcast. It's something I really, really enjoyed doing. So we decided to do it as a standalone. And something we had always heard over the years constantly from people is that people would ask, where is there a list of museums in Pittsburgh? And I said, well, there really isn't.
Right.
And the best you're going to find is a top 10 list. And usually those top 10 lists are the same over and over. I don't know if it's just groupthink or if somebody's just inspired by something someone else wrote or whatever, but it's literally the same museums. And sometimes it's not even museums that make the list, and there's other museums that are great that no one's ever heard of that don't make that list. So we decided, why don't we be the people to create that directory?
Right.
So we built this whole site where we're going to have the media, we're going to have the directory, and we're going to have a membership program. And the directory itself, I'm happy to say, is there's more than 400 museums, galleries, and historic places in southwestern Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And that's just what we got to start. I know we're going to be getting a lot more as the site develops and as it grows and as people start seeing the site. So that's really exciting. It's great. And there are so many interesting things that I'm learning about this history, about the history of this area. One in particular, which struck me as I was reading through. First off, I found all of these like old bars from the 1800s and 1700s that are still bars today.
Wow.
So as someone who likes to go to the pub, looking forward to that. But also, I was tasked in finding places in Washington County. Each of our team members took a different county at the beginning.
Oh.
And in Washington County, I found out that the first crematory in the United States was in Washington County.
Really?
Right here in southwestern Pennsylvania. That was something that blew my mind because I am someone who prides myself in knowing the local history pretty well, and that came out of the blue. I had no idea.
Yeah, as a city that that loves to bury their political secrets, and it makes sense that we would be the trendsetters in
burning them instead.
in disposal. So I have a sneak peek at Brian's website, which will be your website will be going live when, Brian? PGHmuseums.org.
This Saturday.
This Saturday.
So we're going to celebrate with a launch party.
Yes, launch party, which we will definitely talk about this Saturday. I will guarantee you that when this comes live, people are going to be able to go here and look, and they're going to see something that they didn't know existed. Has to be, because Boswell Area Historic Society, like I said, just kind of randomly clicking, and even something closer to home. So Bowman Homestead, So you guys really did your research. How did you go about finding these locations? Did people submit, or did you just was it driving around? Was it web research? Was it a combination?
It was mostly web research. So we did a lot of web research. We searched different keywords in different areas, and we also added in the National Historic Register for every county.
Yes.
So that was a big deal because even that alone, it's not easy to find that information. It's weird. The easiest way to find it, to be honest, is Wikipedia. It's easier to find it there than it is to find it on the actual website for the National Historic Registers. But even so, it's only county by county. No matter where you find it, it's only county by county. And these counties are also connected. People drive amongst these counties all the time.
Right.
So it made sense to put them all in one spot. So we did a lot of web research and personal knowledge and things like that. So what we're going to do, because we do want to open it up to the public, on the website there will be a spot where people can request a museum or gallery to be added to the website than the museums and historic sites. So that's an area where we definitely, it's an opportunity for us to improve there. But it's going to be a growing project, and we want people to feel like they're part of this project, and this is their community project, so we encourage you to get involved and submit a museum. Now, it's not like Wikipedia where you submit the museum and it all of a sudden appears and it's our job to check and take it down.
Yeah.
The information will get to us in our team, and then we'll assess if it's a real museum.
Yeah,
or
you guys will vet
gallery.
everything that comes in.
Yeah.
So what determines a museum? So I look here just through random clicking. Obviously when it has museum in the foundation, or Beaver Area Heritage Foundation, obviously. But for example, just one that I happened to click was Carnegie Free Library of Beaver Falls. So what was the criteria for inclusion in this list?
It's a historic place, so historic places also are included.
Got
So
you.
if it's a historic building, anything that kind of has its roots in our history in one area or another is added to our listings. Because people who love history, for example, we added all these covered bridges, and someone said, "Oh, do you really want to add all these covered bridges?" And I said, well, yeah, because somebody who's a covered bridge enthusiast is going to want to drive around and see all of these covered bridges.
Exactly.
So it's pretty comprehensive, and that's our goal. Is we want to be the most comprehensive listing that's out there.
And what are some of your favorite sort of either something you didn't know about or something that you're sure that other people don't know about? What are some of your favorite spots on here, some of the lesser known? Because as you said earlier, like when people talk about museums, when they talk about, hey, what museums are, you're going to come up with, the Carnegie suite of museums. You're going to come up with, the Science Center, the Children's Museum, things like that. And you're going to come up with Wood Street galleries and the galleries that are in the downtown cultural district. So, what are some of the things that you found that are really sort of like the reason you're doing this site. You're like, this is really like a diamond in the rough, or a great site that people should know about.
Yeah. So first of all, I do want to say one of our goals is, you mentioned the Carnegies and
Yes.
the Heinz History Centers and stuff like that. And they all have great funding, which is wonderful. I'm glad that they're supported. But so many museums are even run by volunteers. So this site is our goal is to try to put everybody on the same playing levels in terms of opportunities. Obviously, the Carnegie is still going to get a lot of traffic through us because they
course.
are sending us press releases. But our goal is to put everybody on the same level
Right.
and give everybody the opportunity and give web presence to a lot of places that have websites that are a little dated maybe because they don't have the web developers and resources. So looking through these museums, one that really surprised me, I don't know if you've ever been to historic Hannistown. It's out in...
I don't think so.
So it's out right outside of Greensburg, and it was actually the county seat for Westmoreland County when Pittsburgh was part of Westmoreland County. And that area, that town was... Well, first off, they have a really cool place. That was the guy who was the mayor. It was his home. It was also the courthouse, and it was the tavern. So you
Wow.
could go get a drink on your way to court. I mean, it just makes sense. But the entire place
Right.
was burned down
Yeah.
by Native Americans, and there was basically a fight between a bunch of different municipalities
Mm-hmm.
as to who would be the new county seat for Westmoreland County. Pittsburgh was one of those municipalities
Really?
that was trying to become the county seat. The city that won was a new town that was called Newtown. And Newtown is what is now Greensburg. But
Right.
if you look at that area, you have West Newtown, which is West Newton. We call it West Newton.
Oh, right, yeah.
So that's where that history all ties into place. It's a really cool site. But what's really interesting about that spot and what people don't think about, because a lot of people who are into that era of time, that like pre-Revolutionary War era, and French and Indian War, like the Pittsburgh's older history, people think of Hannistown for that reason, but there's actually a gallery at historic Hannistown because it's also the Historical Society's home for Westmoreland County. And in that gallery, it's actually photography of Westmoreland County. There's a photographer society in Westmoreland County, and it's all local photography of just beautiful nature and towns and things like that all throughout Westmoreland County. I had no idea that existed. I knew Hannistown existed.
Right.
I went there. I took a week's vacation. I just traveled to a bunch of different museums, and that was a big shock. I know there's some ones here that I'm really looking forward to exploring that I have not been to in the past. One of them on here that joined, or an affiliate of ours actually, it's the Punxsutawney. Let me see if I can find it right here. I want to say it right. Punxsutawney Weather Discovery Center, which is really cool. Like I didn't know that
Right.
existed.
Yeah.
So
No, me either.
I'm gonna head down there. Photo Antiquities, they keep asking me to come down, and I'm like, after this party I will be there, so we're gonna go and check that out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really cool places that I haven't been to, and that's what's so great about this, is it's developing a list for myself as well.
And what's the I mean, obviously we're here in Western Pennsylvania, Southwest Pennsylvania. Do you plan on kind of keeping it Western Pennsylvania focused, or do you see it potentially kind of growing up into something else, maybe even regionally with with Ohio and West Virginia, or even maybe farther east? Or
So my thoughts, and it all depends on how well we do with our membership program, because I'd have to hire like someone part-time at least just to do
Yeah.
the boring work, the data entry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's easy to get volunteers to create fun videos and podcasts and blog. It's
Yeah.
harder to get people to commit to data entry.
Right.
So what I'd like to do is, if we do well with our membership, I'd like to first move upwards to Erie and then stretch across the state. And I think what would be cool in the future, and this is, again, it's all dependent. We're happy with whatever we can do, but if we are able to do this, it would be cool if we had the entire Commonwealth split it up into 3 sections. So you would have a one page, you would see Pennsylvania, you'd click the part of the state you wanted, and then from there you could get more information. That way I just think it'd be a little more digestible. It'd be a little too overwhelming to have all of Pennsylvania. If you
Right.
think about it, our history in this area is so rich. In some ways, we started a world war that in many ways shaped the entire world order, leading all the way into World War II.
Right.
And you think about that, Philadelphia's older than us. So if we had that kind of an impact
Sure.
on the world, imagine what kind of history is
Right.
across the,
Of
the
course,
state
yeah.
as well. So I think it would just be a little overwhelming for all on one website, but I think to break it up that way, and sure, I mean, the sky's the limit. It just all depends. I want to start small And the reason why is even at the beginning we had some push. Oh, go north, go to Crawford County. Your name's Crawford. I'm like, I have nothing against Crawford County. We can add them to the list, but I'm not going to make it there personally. And right now I need to be able to get to places that I can reach. That way we can make sure that whenever they're affiliated with us, if they decide to affiliate with us, we can give them justice as well. And we also want to make sure that we're on point and our content is solid. So that way we gain people's interest, and that way we'll get people excited about the brand. So then we can move into Crawford County and move across state, move north and east.
So talk a little bit about your subscription model, and then also talk a little bit about you mentioned a couple of times about affiliate members. So talk a little about those two things.
Sure. So the subscription, first I'll say most of the website's free. Most everything will be free. The blog will primarily be free unless there's like something really cool that comes out that we want to reserve for our members. The interviews with artists and historians, most of those will be free. The podcast coming next fall will be free. What's going to be behind the paywall are these mini documentaries that we create. We've got all sorts of interesting ideas on what we would want to do with those, where we'll take people behind the scenes. One idea that I have, and I'm going to pitch it to them. So this may not happen. We'll see. I haven't made the pitch yet, but one idea I have is I would love to go to Phipps Conservatory during one of their change-outs when they change seasons, and actually go into the production greenhouse and show people things that they're just not able to see with a ticket to Phipps. And that's kind of the stuff that we want to do in these mini documentaries. And that's why those are going to be reserved for our members, because our members are the real hardcore museum enthusiasts versus somebody who, is interested in checking out a museum, which is a big part of our website as well. So really what you'll get is a card just like this one here for Charlie Deach that we have for you.
Thank you.
And with this card, you will get a discount at right now it is 13. It'll be 14 museums in the region to start off, and that'll continue to grow as more museums sign on with us, and it's a reoccurring discount that you can get. And all that a museum is required to sign up with us is to offer that discount. So they offer a discount to our members, and then in return, they'll be listed on our members page. They'll be, if you look at the top of the website, you'll see that featured content section. Their articles will go there in addition to any original content that we put out. And then also in our podcasts and videos and even in the blogs, we'll be throwing in little promos for those museums to try to drive traffic to them. We didn't want to charge the museums. It's typically $20 a card. The first way to get a card is the $25 fee for the party, and you'll get a lot more than the membership card in that with the party. Then after that, we're probably going to have a sale for Christmas, and then typically the price of the card is only $20 a year. And for the museums, it's free. All they have to do is offer the discount. And the reason why is, again, we don't want any barrier to entry for these museums. We want the museum that's run by a team of volunteers. We want a museum that's run by a team of volunteers to have the same opportunity as a museum that has a full paid staff. Yeah. And I think it's important that our website maintains that, because no one else is going to do it, because there's really no reason for any individual museum to put something like this together. So we want to make sure that we stay pure to that goal, which is why we started the podcast out long ago, and that's why we're doing this website now.
What's the so who do you have developing this content with? Is it mainly a one-man show right now, one-person show right now? Is it?
No, there's 4 people who were involved in the videos, whether they be interviews or the documentaries, and then we have a couple people working on blog posts as well. And basically, we're just the interviews will come out every other week, and they're going to be shot on location, so we'll be in the gallery or in the studio with the artist. And we basically are going to have a spreadsheet up, and whoever is able to make it that particular Saturday morning when we record it, they'll just write their name down and we'll go. But yeah, it's all volunteers. We're all just going to do what we can. And one of the things that we have, one of the great things about this site, and one of the things that I did early on, is I sent out this summer an email to every museum that I could find an email address for, and I said, add us to your media list. So we'll be posting their press releases, as long as it's not something that we need to rewrite, then we'll rewrite it, but we'll pretty much be posting the press releases on our blog as well, in addition to content. So since we're all volunteers and we all have a full-time job, some of us have more than one full-time job, then we don't have to worry necessarily about content always being posted, because we're going to be fed content. Because really our job isn't to become a newspaper like what you guys are. Our job is to just be a resource to find information about these museums. So like even if we read something in the Pittsburgh Current that deals with the museum, we'll share that link in our blog and say, hey, check out this article from the Pittsburgh Current. And that's part of our objective too. We kind of want to be the one-stop shop for everything museum, finding out information about museums, reading about museums, watching interviews, getting discounts. We plan on doing quarterly events where you'll get a discount as a member. So there's all sorts of fun things that we have in the works.
As well as, and we talked a little bit, you obviously will have this, and it's already, like I said, I've already seen the interactive map. It's pretty impressive. But you also have a calendar, I assume, of events and
calendar of events, a directory that you can read. We'll have the map that you saw, which is interactive, and there's actually a button on there you can click to activate your Google Maps app on your phone, so then you can navigate to it, which is great.
Yeah.
And also, in addition to that, there's a search bar on there, and if you just start typing in, like if you type in Andy Warhol, the museum listing will come up that we have, and then all of the articles associated with it as well will pop up, which is great. And then you can even just search in Allegheny County, and then everything from Allegheny County will come up. You can search in private residence, and then if you want to go and be a creeper and look at all of these personally owned homes that are on the historic register, they're all going to be there. You can drive around and look at those as well.
So you have your event coming up on Saturday, a launch party. Tell me a little bit about the launch party. Where and when, and what the hope is. Obviously, you're hoping to get people to come out and learn more about you.
I will just put it this way to start off. I am losing money on this party, even if we have a good turnout.
Right.
We've just thrown everything at it because we wanted it to be a great event because it's our big welcomed, the world event. So it's $25 to get in. And when you get in, first thing you get is this PGH Museum's membership card, which is a $20 value. That's included in the ticket price. In addition to that, you'll get 2 drinks from Threadbare, which Threadbare cider and mead. So, you can't go wrong right there. There's going to be pizza available. There will be a live music from Tim Vitullo, who's an incredible musician. You guys should get him on your musician show sometime. He's great.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. We'll have 2 live painters, Nikki Bacon and Mike Zickafoos. They'll be there live painting in front of you, and you can also buy their artwork as well. Also, for that price, there's going to be the Carnegie Museum of Natural History's mini museum on site. So there's actually going to be a museum that you can explore while you're at the party. And the first 60 ticket buyers will take a fossil home with them. And if you buy your ticket by Friday night tonight, you'll be entered into a basket for the Steel City Salt Company.
Wow.
So it's a lot for $25.
And the location is at Threadbare. It is your location.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, as to talking to you about this, it's obvious to me that this is especially if you're volunteering your time and your money and so forth, this obviously has to be something that is important to you, close to you. Has history always been something you've had an interest in?
It is, yeah. I've always been interested in history. It's funny, I never really went to a lot of museums as a kid. My parents didn't go to a ton of them, so we just didn't go. We always went to the beach, which was great. I love the beach, but didn't go to a lot of museums, and it was actually my friend Randy who started this with me. He is the one who really started getting me to go to museums. We started going just for fun, and then the podcast came as our schedules got tighter, and I was like, if we make it a priority, we can make sure that we get to it. But yeah, so it started off that way, and I really love seeing history. I don't know. It's one thing to read it. I like to experience things. So it's one thing to read about something or watch something, but to be able to walk through it and live it. I don't know why. It's to me, it's more exciting that way.
Yeah. What are we missing any? I mean, as obviously someone who spent a lot of hours getting this ready, what else should people know about your site and about the information and so forth you're going to have on there?
Yeah, I think we want you to be active in the site. I think that's the biggest thing, is we want you to live and breathe it, and we want you to be a member with us. We want you to be an affiliate, obviously, but even more than that, even if you're somebody who doesn't want to become a member of PGH Museums, we want you to add to the site. Tell us your stories, tell us your experiences. One of the things I love about this project is I'll share a photo of a building, And people from all over will start talking about their experiences with that building and how their family members lived there, or how they worked there, or different things that they experienced. One example is the Union Trust building. We posted a picture of the ceilings. That's one of my favorite buildings in Pittsburgh. Have you been in there?
I have not been in there. Of course, I know where it is, but yeah, I've never been.
Go in.
Yeah.
You walk in, and first off, you're like, wow, this is a really nice lobby.
Yeah.
And then you get to the middle, and you look up, and every floor has a round railing going all the way up to the top with this stained glass ceiling. And it is just breathtaking. It's very difficult to photograph. And I did the best that I could, posted the picture, and apparently they used to leave a tarp at the bottom of that at Christmas time, and people would drop money from each of the floors into the tarp for I think it was for the Salvation Army.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like stories like that which are so cool.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that anymore. I had no idea that was ever a thing. And just stories like that are really, really cool to hear, and that's what we really want to get more of that as we go along. So it's really interacting with the site. We want you to be engaged with our programming, comment on our stuff, whether you hate what we said or whether you want to add something to it. We want people to really feel like this is their website as well, and we want them to be involved. Again, there's going to be a spot right there for people to add their own museum. I know there's museums we're missing. I don't know if you're familiar with Trundle Manor.
Yeah, one I am familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Trundle Manor is somebody owns that as their personal home. They
Right.
live in that building.
Right.
So I do know about that one, but there's a good chance that I could not have known about that
Right.
one. You know what I mean?
And there are probably many people that don't know about
Exactly. Trundle Manor is great. They have a tumor in a jar that's a music box.
Right.
Right there in the foyer of the house. I think it's in the foyer. So I mean, the place is incredible. So I know there's more stuff out there like that.
And I think what this will do too is it's going to challenge people's thoughts about and ideas about what a museum is, what a museum is supposed to be. Like, again, there are people I'm sure who would, who when they say museums, you got to have, dinosaur bones and whatever paintings made by people with French names. But there's much more to museums than what we think of as museums.
Oh, yeah. Actually, one of the cool things, props to Pittsburgh. So from what I've been told, and I haven't done the research, so I'm just saying this because I've been told it, but it sounds good.
Yeah.
Apparently, a lot of these natural history museums actually have models of dinosaur skeletons that are based off of what we have at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History. So that's kind of cool. So we have the real deal there. And actually, if you go there, you can see them actually working on dinosaurs in one of the windows, which is pretty sweet. So.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, our museum, just the museum system that you do know, that most people do know of, is amazing. So I think it's really cool that this is going to really take people even deeper into what Pittsburgh has to offer in terms of museums and galleries and so forth.
Oh, yeah, and then the buildings as well. I was talking with Louise of the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation, and they've affiliated with us as well, so our members will get discounts with a lot of the stuff that they're doing as well. But she was saying from the beginning, she's like, our museum is the buildings in the world that you live in Pittsburgh, and a lot of these historic buildings. And it was funny because that was already part of something we were working on. We added historic buildings and stuff like that to the project, but I couldn't agree with her more. And sometimes the buildings themselves, you go to the Carnegie Museum of Natural History and you look at the building that it's in, or even the libraries that are around here, they are breathtaking. The Cathedral of Learning, go in there. They're as interesting. Well, the Cathedral of Learning is a museum itself with the nationalities rooms, but just going into the lobby is just out of this world. And you can gain so much just going to even the historic sites. I remember one day I was young. I was just out of high school, and I discovered the historic markers. They I don't want to talk down on my high school, but they didn't talk really anything about local history.
Sure. No, and I think most high schools don't, and that's kind of sad.
They don't. And I remember learning about Bushy Run in high school, and I was taught wrong information. We were told that it was part of the French and Indian War, and it definitely was. It was a war that was a direct result of the French and Indian War, but it was actually a separate war called Pontiac's War. And it was the French had nothing to do with that war. Well, except for the fact that the Native Americans were hoping the French would come back, but the French weren't actually involved in any of the fighting in Pontiac's War. But one of the things that Irwin has is all of these different historic markers like they have here in Pittsburgh. And there was actually a house that was part of the Underground Railroad that was in Irwin. General Braddock camped in Irwin on his way to Fort Duquesne. All of these different things that I never learned in history class that I learned just going to these sites. And even though the house that was part of the Underground Railroad, it was a private residence, you
Right.
couldn't walk into it. It was really cool to just drive by it or walk by it and look at it and think, wow, this was a part of American history, a part of Pittsburgh history. And that's really cool too. So I thought it was important to add all of these historic places because you can learn and gain so much and really appreciate your own hometown so much more when you can see how your hometown is connected through history
Right.
and how it's shaped
Yeah.
the world that we live in.
It's really great. As we wrap up here with Brian Crawford of PGH Museums, Brian, tell people how they can get tickets to the event on Saturday. And obviously there'll be advanced tickets now, and there also will be tickets at the door, I assume?
Correct. Yeah, so right now until Friday night at 11:59 p.m., you can go to pghmuseums.org, and you'll see right at the top of the page there's a link that is for the tickets. You can also just find us on Eventbrite as well. It's right there. And also the day of, it's just cash only the day of, and that'll be at the door, $25 at the door at Threadbare. And you won't get a ticket; you'll just be let in. So
Great. We're having a bit of a having a bit of a technical difficulty here, folks. Sorry about that.
Live podcasting.
Live podcasting. This is where my inexperience comes in. Brian, tell me. So Brian, so basically what I'll say is, Brian, fill time for me real quick while I look something up on my computer.
Sure.
Back to museums that people might not know about. There are some. How much have you gone? You mentioned Washington County. So what are the main target counties? Are you looking at Beaver County? Are you looking at?
Oh,
yeah.
It goes out just. Well, I hate to bring up Crawford. We want Crawford museums. So if somebody is from Crawford County, please send us our museums. We do want to add you. We're just not our focus right now. But basically, that's our top. So like right there.
Right.
We don't go into Crawford or Erie County, so that's about as far north as we go. We go all the way down to the border with West Virginia. We go all the way out to Ohio, and then we go all the way out to Clarion County. And the reason why we go that far is just because if you exclude Clarion, it's like this huge cutout, and
Sure.
it looks like we're intentionally excluding them.
Right.
So it's a natural line to
Yeah.
run around Clarion. So that's why somebody was like, Crawford, Clarion's further than Crawford. It's like, well, that's why. It's just because it would look really like rude, like
Right.
we're like, we're done with you. So that's our focus. But again,
Yeah.
we're not building a wall like the president. We are building just a border line. So like you can cross
Right.
that. We can cross that border. We do have some museums
Right.
in West Virginia that have been added to the directory.
Okay.
We will add museums in Ohio if they pop up or someone suggests it. So it's definitely a line drawn in pencil. We encourage
Right.
coloring outside of the lines,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. But that's kind of our focus. We just had to have a focus. Otherwise, you're
Yeah.
never going to accomplish anything if you don't have a targeted area.
I grew up just down the river, just over the border in Ohio, East Liverpool, Wellsville area, and there's a museum of ceramics
Oh,
in
really?
East Liverpool, Ohio. And I remember, listen, I'm sure it's lovely, and I've never been as an adult, but I was like going as a kid to learn about, because pottery is what made that region of Ohio and West
Okay.
Virginia. Pottery was huge down there. Homer Laughlin China Company, home of the fancy plates that everybody loves. You'll know it. Anyway, Fiesta ware. Everyone
Okay.
loves Fiesta ware. But I remember that as a kid thinking, I don't know how I could, spend an hour or two looking at plates. But even as a kid, you're like, this is kind of interesting to learn something that you never knew before. So
Oh, yeah.
it's definitely, I think this is definitely something that is needed. Before we go, I do want to tell you that now celebrating their 25th anniversary, the Pittsburgh dance company Attack Theater presents The Kitchen Sink at New Hazlitt Theater on November 15th through the 17th, featuring a rocking repertoire of original live music and the bold physicality of the company dancers. Tickets and more information at attacktheater.com/kitchen sink. And that's what I was missing. We all make mistakes, I guess. Brian, thank you for coming out today. Thank you for hanging in. This has been a bit of an odd show. I've definitely had some flubs and mix-ups, but you were great, Brian, and I think that people should definitely check out your site, pghmuseums.org. The event this Saturday at Threadbare, I think Good luck with the endeavor.
Thank you. You're definitely, like I said, this Saturday, you're getting your money's worth. I'm going to lose a minimum $300, maybe $600.
Come
on
and
this
help
project.
Brian drink all the booze and food he's already paid for.
Yes,
he would
exactly.
appreciate it.
Please.
Thanks a lot, and thank you for joining us today on the Pittsburgh Current podcast. Have a great week.
A better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. A better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative.